In our culture, we admire the specialist. We praise the purity of a single-minded focus. We celebrate the hyper-rational scientist, the purely compassionate saint, the ruthlessly effective CEO. We are taught that the path to success is to pick one strength and master it, to become the best at one thing, to be a person of unwavering principle or unshakable kindness. But what if this pursuit of one-sided perfection is, from a psychological perspective, the most dangerous path you can take? What if, in your attempt to be purely good or purely logical, you are unintentionally feeding a monster in your own basement? The great psychiatrist Carl Jung issued a profound warning against the dangers of a one-sided life. He knew that the human psyche, like nature itself, abhors a vacuum and despises imbalance. He taught that any virtue, when pushed to its extreme, inevitably flips into its opposite, destructive vice. Today we will explore this critical concept. We will uncover why a life lived on only one side of the coin is a life destined for crisis, and how the secret to a stable, resilient, and whole life is found not in purity, but in the courageous act of embracing your own contradictions. To understand this danger, we must first grasp a fundamental law of the psyche, a principle Jung borrowed from the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus, Enantiodromia. The word literally means to run counter to. It is the principle that everything that exists inevitably flows into its opposite. The tide comes in, and it must go out. Summer reaches its peak, and it must turn to winter. In the same way, any extreme attitude or one-sidedness in the conscious mind will provoke the emergence of its opposite in the unconscious. The psyche has a powerful self-regulating tendency. It is always seeking balance. The more you consciously try to be only one thing, the more its opposite builds up energy in the darkness of your unconscious. This isn't a moral judgment, it is a law of psychic physics. Like a pendulum pulled far to one side, it gains immense potential energy to swing back just as far in the opposite direction. A life of extreme discipline will breed a shadow of chaos. A life of extreme asceticism will breed a shadow of lust. The more you deny a part of yourself, the more power you give it to eventually erupt and possess you, often in a primitive, uncontrolled, and destructive way. The goal of a conscious life, therefore, is not to pull the pendulum higher on one side, but to slow its swing and find the still point in the center. Let's make this practical. Consider the archetype of the hyper-rational scientist or engineer, a person who has built their entire identity around the thinking function. Their conscious life is a fortress of logic, order, and objective fact. They pride themselves on being unsentimental, on making decisions based purely on data, and on being in control of their emotions. They have pushed their opposite, the feeling function, down into the unconscious. They may see emotional people as weak, irrational, and messy, but the queen of the heart cannot be repressed forever. The energy of the neglected feeling function builds in the shadow. It might first appear in dreams, perhaps of passionate, chaotic, or deeply moving scenes. If these are ignored, the Enantiodromia will strike in real life. Suddenly, this logical, controlled individual finds themselves completely overwhelmed by a sentimental, irrational, and often disastrous love affair. They are possessed by the very emotionality they once despised. Their life's logical structure is shattered by the primitive, undifferentiated feeling that has erupted from the depths. This is not a failure of character. It is the psyche violently correcting a dangerous imbalance. It is the heart taking its revenge on the tyranny of the head. Now consider the opposite one-sidedness. The compassionate empath or caregiver, a person who has built their identity around the feeling function. Their conscious life is dedicated to harmony, relationship, and the well-being of others. They are kind, supportive, and will do anything to avoid conflict. They pride themselves on their empathy. In doing so, they have often repressed their opposite, the thinking function. They may avoid hard, objective truths if they might hurt someone's feelings. They may struggle to make tough, impersonal decisions. They see a logical, critical perspective as cold or cruel, but the king of the mind will not be silenced forever. The neglected thinking function gathers power in their shadow. This can manifest as a secret, harsh, and overly simplistic judgmentalism. On the surface, they are all accepting, but privately they harbor incredibly rigid black and white opinions. Then the Enantiodromia strikes. After years of self-sacrifice and conflict avoidance, the pressure becomes too much. The repressed thinking function erupts. This kind, compassionate person suddenly becomes cold, cruel, and relentlessly critical. They might cut off a relationship with a shocking lack of empathy or speak a brutal, devastating truth that they have been storing up for years. Their friends and family are shocked, saying, "I don't know who you are anymore." They are right. They are meeting the neglected shadow, which has now possessed the personality to restore a desperate, painful balance. This law of enantiodromia is especially clear in the realm of spirituality. Consider the person who consciously dedicates themselves to a life of only love and light. Their persona is one of constant positivity, serenity, and goodness. They deny and repress all negative emotions. Anger, jealousy, ambition, and doubt are pushed deep into the shadow. They may attend countless workshops, repeat endless affirmations, and surround themselves only with others who share their one-sided ideal. They are trying to live in a perpetual daytime, denying that the night must also come. But the shadow does not disappear. It accumulates energy, and it will find a way out. It often leaks out in subtle, unspiritual ways: sharp-tongued gossip disguised as concern, passive-aggressive behavior, or a sense of quiet moral superiority. Then one day the enantiodromia hits. A minor frustration, getting cut off in traffic, a rude comment from a cashier, triggers a disproportionate explosion. The love and light person erupts in a fit of uncontrollable rage. Or they might find themselves plagued by self-destructive behaviors, a secret addiction, or a profound depression that their positive affirmations cannot touch. This is the revenge of the repressed shadow. The psyche is screaming for wholeness. It is reminding the person that true spirituality is not about being only light. It is about having the courage to integrate one's own darkness. How does the psyche signal that we have become dangerously one-sided? Its primary tool is compensation. The unconscious is always aware of the attitude of the conscious mind, and its goal is to maintain the overall balance of the system. If your conscious attitude becomes too extreme, the unconscious will begin to produce material that represents the exact opposite in an attempt to get your attention and restore equilibrium. This is the purpose of many of our dreams. The hyper-rational scientist who denies his feeling life will start having powerful emotional and symbolic dreams. The all-loving caregiver who represses their critical thoughts will dream of being a cold, ruthless judge. The love and light spiritualist will have nightmares filled with dark, monstrous figures. These dreams are not punishments. They are meifen. The psyche is presenting you with the very thing you are missing. It is offering you the opposite pole to balance you. If you ignore the dreams, the unconscious will raise its voice. It might create fantasies and daydreams that pull you towards your neglected side. You might find yourself compulsively drawn to books, movies, or people who embody the very qualities you have repressed. The logical man becomes obsessed with romantic poetry. The chaotic artist becomes fascinated with minimalist architecture. This is the psyche trying to self-correct. It is a sign of its incredible wisdom and its relentless drive towards wholeness. When the psychological messages from the unconscious are consistently ignored, the psyche may resort to its most powerful and unavoidable language: the body. Jung and many of his followers observed a profound connection between a one-sided psychological life and the emergence of physical symptoms. The body, being part of the unconscious, can become a theater for the drama that the conscious mind refuses to acknowledge. This is the process of somatization. A person who represses their anger might develop chronic jaw pain or tension headaches. The unexpressed fight energy gets lodged in the muscles. A person who denies their own needs and constantly carries the weight of others might develop debilitating back problems. A person who is not living their own authentic life, who feels sick of their situation, might develop chronic digestive issues. This is not to say that all illness is psychological, but it is to say that we cannot separate the mind from the body. When a powerful psychic energy is blocked from conscious expression, it does not disappear. It must go somewhere. And often it will speak through the body, creating a symptom that forces us to finally pay attention. The symptom is not the real problem. It is a symbol. It is a message from the repressed part of the psyche, a desperate and painful attempt to bring a dangerous one-sidedness back into balance. The antidote to the dangers of a one-sided life is the conscious pursuit of wholeness. As we've explored before, this is the central goal of Jungian psychology. And wholeness, by definition, is the integration of opposites. It is not about choosing light over dark or logic over emotion. It is about building a psyche that is strong enough and flexible enough to contain both. The truly individuated person is not the one who has eliminated their contradictions, but the one who has learned to live with them, to hold them in a creative tension. They are a living paradox. They have the capacity for sharp, rational thought, and they have the capacity for deep, empathetic feeling. They can be disciplined and hardworking, and they can be playful and spontaneous. They can touch the heights of their spiritual aspirations, and they can acknowledge the depths of their primal, shadowy nature. They are not trying to be a single, pure thing. They are striving to be a complete human being. This requires letting go of the ego's desire for a simple, consistent identity. The ego wants to be able to say, I am a logical person, or I am a kind person. The journey to wholeness asks us to embrace a much more complex and challenging identity. I am a person who contains both logic and kindness, both strength and vulnerability, both light and darkness. This is not a state of indecision. It is a state of profound psychological richness and resilience. How do we practically avoid the pendulum swing of Enantiodromia and cultivate wholeness? The key lies in the conscious art of holding the tension of the opposites. Instead of repressing our non-preferred side, we must consciously make space for it. This is a practical daily discipline. For the person who over-identifies with thinking, this means creating rituals to honor their feeling function. It might mean scheduling time to listen to music, to walk in nature, to journal about their emotions, or to have conversations where the goal is not to be right, but simply to connect. For the person who over-identifies with feeling, it means consciously engaging their thinking function. It might mean taking a class in a logical subject, learning to manage their personal finances, or practicing the art of offering objective, critical feedback in a constructive way. For the love and light spiritualist, it means creating a safe space to acknowledge their negative feelings, their anger, their envy, their judgment, without acting them out. This is the essence of shadow work. By consciously giving a small amount of space to your other side, you prevent it from building up a huge amount of energy in the unconscious. You are releasing the pressure from the psychic boiler before it explodes. This is incredibly difficult because it requires you to spend time in your most uncomfortable, awkward, and undeveloped function. But it is this very practice that prevents the violent swing of the pendulum and allows you to find the balanced, stable center. Ultimately, a one-sided life is a brittle life. It is a tower built too high in one direction, destined to collapse. The path Jung illuminates is a path towards building a life that is not pure but is strong, flexible, and rich. It is about embracing the full spectrum of your humanity. The goal is not to be a saint, but to be a whole person, not to be a supercomputer, but to be a wise human. The beauty of a personality is not found in its one-sided perfection, but in its complex, paradoxical, and harmonious integration of all its different parts. It is the richness of a symphony, which requires both the high notes of the flute and the deep notes of the cello. It is the beauty of a great tree, which needs both its branches reaching for the sun and its roots digging deep into the dark earth. This is a more challenging, but infinitely more rewarding way to live. It is a path that leads not to a fragile state of purity, but to a resilient and authentic state of wholeness. Thank you for joining us on this deep exploration. If this message about finding balance resonated with you, please give this video a like to help it reach others, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next journey into the depths of the human psyche.